All right, welcome, wonderful listeners, to the Shadow and Starlight Podcast, where two friends dive deep into popular fantasy and romantasy books. We get into the stories, characters, world building, lore, and much more. And most importantly, we'll have a damn good time while we do it.
So buckle your seatbelts for this wild roller coaster ride of emotions, magical worlds, and laughs. I'm Kinsey.
I'm Kana.
Today we are covering chapters 1 through 9 of Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. Yay!
Oh my gosh. Finally. First and foremost, please listen carefully to our content warning. These are adult books we're covering, and neither of us have a filter, so this podcast is definitely rated R and for those 18 plus. Regarding spoilers, if you have not finished the entire Fourth Wing and Iron Flame book, please come back after you do so. While we are discussing this first stretch of chapters, we will be doing so with the perspective of what happens in both books for better understanding. That way we can really dive deeper into the theories and appreciate the masterful foreshadowing, and it's literally endless, of Rebecca. Going forward, all episodes on our show will contain spoilers for the whole series in question.
Next, if you like what you hear today and want more, please come back next Thursday, and next Thursday, and next Thursday, and next Thursday, and every Thursday after that for a brand new episode. As a taller podcast, we love to hear your feedback to better ourselves to expand our book-loving community. Please feel free to give us reviews, reach out to us on social media, and follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and watch us on YouTube at Shadow and Starlight Pod.
Yes. All right. Drink of the pod. What you got?
Raspberry lemonade.
Oh my god, I knew it was lemonade. I'm drinking matcha because it's been a day, and I'm drinking it in my cute little cat mug. Also, a very important announcement. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can see, but listeners, I have a little Andarna on my shoulder, and Kenzie has her little toothless /Tern. So we're really showing our Fourth Wing spirit today. And I also have my Basgiath shirt on. So I have been waiting for this moment my whole life, basically. Officially, we are 68 days away from Onyx Storm. And yes, we will be doing a countdown every episode. So, man, it's getting close. I am so excited, especially now that we're officially in our Empyrean coverage. Yes. So excited.
So excited.
And our last announcement. Kenzie is diabolical. And I lost the trial by trivia for Quicksilver. If you haven't watched our episodes for Quicksilver or read the book, there's a chapter where this character is eating quiche, and we went on like a whole tangent about it. And she decided my punishment would be to drink a quiche milkshake. So go check out our social media. My quiche milkshake video will be live today, so go check it out on our Instagram or our TikTok at Shadow and Starlight Pod. Yes, I will suffer for the views and for the content. And I'm very determined to get you back and win this Empyrean trial by trivia. So you've been warned.
Honestly, I can't even say anything because this is such a juicy book and it's so much content that I probably would I don't know. We'll see.
There's gonna be lots of material to quiz each other from.
Yeah.
Watch us get like 3 episodes deep and both of us still have 0 points.
Probably. All right, folks, we are officially entering. Is it Navarre, right?
Yeah. Let's just preface this by saying we mispronounce stuff all the time.
Yes.
So sorry. Don't take it too seriously. It is what it is. We'll try our best. That's
we
all
are
we can
actively listening to the audiobooks. So this one shouldn't be as bad as the past 2 books because I've been listening to the audiobook like crazy trying to get the pronunciations right in my head. But yes, we're officially entering Basgiath War College. Yay! So exciting. Exciting. So let's get ready to cross the parapet as Kana leads us through our Shadow and Starlight synopsis, aka her unhinged summary detailing the events of these chapters.
All right. It's conscription day at Basgiath, and a silver-haired, soon-to-be badass dragon rider is headed up to Mummy's office. Speak of the devil. We learn right away that both Mira and Violet have some serious mommy issues, as this no-nonsense woman has ordered her youngest daughter to join the deadliest quadrant in Navarre's military, the Riders. Having been trained to be a historian most of her life, she is drastically unprepared, but God forbid anyone talk back to General Lilith Sorengale. Big Sister of the Year, Mira prepares Violet in all the ways she knows how and escorts her to the turret, warning her to stay away from a certain Xaden Ryerson before heading off. Ha! Alone at last, Violet climbs the stairs to the parapet and makes a couple friends, even trading one of her boots to make sure that Rihanna can make it across the parapet in the slick weather conditions. Just before her crossing, Violet comes face to face with Book Talk's beloved shadow daddy, Xaden. Enter the hottest, most ruthless, most attractive, most sexiest, most badass dragon riding MMC to ever live in my brain. I could talk about this man all day, and I probably will. Like any other good enemies to lovers plotline, these two absolutely despise each other for pretty valid reasons. Finally crossing the parapet, Violet repeats her mantra as well as many historical facts about Navarre, which speaks to her scribe side and also helps us readers get a grasp on the world building in the story. Jack Barlow, aka the psycho that just will not die, is dead set on killing Violet until she puts a dagger to his literal balls. God, I love this woman, and this is the exact point where I knew I was going to. Officially a cadet, Violet, not doing so great. Her knee is bucked. She's about to throw up all over Dane. Ugh. Get out of here, bro. But since you're here, let me roast you real quick. This codex-loving, spineless rat that should have been in the infantry, by the way, Xaden agrees with me, just read his bonus chapter, helps Violet recover in private and begins his pleas to get her to the scribe quadrant. Buckle up, folks. This isn't the last time he's going to do that, and it's already old. To our dismay, Violet is flirting her little butt off. Back in the courtyard, the cadets gather for their entrance speech, which is really just Xaden telling them that shit hasn't even begun to get difficult yet. True, but way to kill the vibe. Wing leader Xaden uses his position to transfer Violet's squad to 4th Wing so he can better handle her. All right, it's time. Enter dragons. Your hosts might be salivating because we get to talk about dragons for 15 plus episodes, but for these cadets, it is a serious reality check. Anyone that shows fear is roasted, and some kid pisses himself because he's so scared. And I'm like, I know it's the first time you've seen a dragon, but come on, didn't you know you were signing up for the rider quadrant?
Literally.
If Kenzie and I were there, we would probably have gotten roasted running up to pet the dragons. Yeah. But in my brain, we would have made a dragon bestie and went to live in the Vale with all the other cuties. But that probably wouldn't happen. Sigale would be like, you're dead. All right. First day of death classes. Woohoo. On the way to Battle Brief, Violet learns just how much Jane has changed, considering he is now a magic wielder, dragon rider, and has a unique signet of memory cognition. Wonder if that'll come up later. Violet's plan to lay low and play dumb backfires yet again, and she stands out as the smartest first year in Battle Brief. Scribe training for the win, baby. Straight away, we gain the knowledge that Navarre is not so safe, with wards faltering, griffin flyers attacking, and the chance to be called into service early. When Xaden speaks up in class, it is to get our wheels turning. Just what are these griffin flyers looking for in these Navarrian outposts? Could it possibly be the one thing that can kill creepy and evil venom and their giant fire-breathing wyverns? Nah, they're probably just looking for like better snacks or something. At the sparring gym later, it is time for assessments. Riddick shows that he is a feminist king. Rhiannon whoops Tynan's ass, but unfortunately our violence needs to work on her violence. Imogen, a marked one, takes an opportunity for revenge and breaks Violet's shoulder. Believe it or not, girls, y'all are actually going to be friends one day. Imogen might deny it religiously, but it's true. And in serious pain, Violet agrees to be mended by Nolan just this once. After that is complete, she gets a dose of hope when she finds the Book of Brennan. Instead of a diary full of juicy tea, it is a how-to on how Violet is going to survive this toxic quadrant by poisoning people until she learns how to throw a punch. I can't blame her. I feel like I would do the same thing. If I was like smart enough to know how to poison people. Well, I used to sneak out in high school for fun. Violet sneaks out for berries. Fauna Lee berries, specifically. Just when she is about to make her way back to the dorms, an illegal formation of marked ones decides to meet right under the tree she is currently perched in. Instead of plotting another rebellion, they are simply just trying to help each other survive. Violet can't help but admire Xaden despite his ruthlessness. Convinced she's unnoticed, she slips out of the tree to find Xaden waiting for her, who presses a dagger to her neck. To her shock, he doesn't kill her, but instead lets her know he commands shadows, coins her favorite nickname, gives her some advice on how to handle Jack Barlow, and he also now owes her a favor for keeping his little survival club a secret. After poisoning her first victim and making us suffer through talking about her sex life with Dane, it's time for Violet to head to Dragon Class. In addition to many other breeds, the class also gets a peek at the only unbonded black dragon. Since Jack is delusional that he will somehow get the biggest, baddest battle dragon in the Vale, we learn that black dragons are the rarest, smartest, and most discerning. And we will also learn the backstory to this particular Morningstar tale that will become one of my favorite fictional characters ever written. Back in the sparring gym, Violet's diabolical plan works flawlessly, except for Orin throwing up everywhere. But hey, a win is a win. As time passes, she shows her skill as a poison master until some girl from Third Wing does not show up to spar as a result of consuming the poison too early. Instead of giving a free pass, Xaden steps up to repay that favor. He teaches her some combat tricks while also making mine and Violet's pulse skyrocket. Yes, Violet. I am also thinking about other things that are a good fit at certain angles as well. Lord have mercy. After her lesson, Violet spends some quality time with Dane, who is again making plans for her to escape without her permission. The two argue, but Violet does agree to think about his proposal before threshing. And that's where this stretch of chapters ends.
Yay! I'm so excited. I need to a shirt with his face on it so I could just wear it every time.
This is like the only episode we'll do without Taryn, and that's what I'm here for.
I know. Dragons! Now that we have crossed the parapet, we've survived the parapet, we did not fall to our death. Now we're going to move into battle brief. So it's time to head into our chapter chat section, which we're going to be referring to as battle brief, this stretch of chapters, well, this coverage, where we will discuss all notable things in this stretch of chapters, including theories, foreshadowing, and more.
Yes.
So starting with our shadowing, we're going to talk about Jack Barlow's hunger for power.
Man, can we just talk about how, really quick, I was so convinced he was dead, and I thought he was just like a lower tier villain. And when he came back, I was like, you gotta be motherfucking joking right now.
I was so thrown off by his reappearance. I was like, why?
Yeah, that was one of the biggest shocks of Iron Flame to me. That was right up there with like Dane killing Barish. Or stabbing him. But yeah, just, what?
I had no faith in Dane.
I didn't either.
He actually shocked me.
I tried not to hate on Dane too much. I was like, I gotta roast him just once.
Oh, I am going to eat that man up when we get to our favorite moments. He gets no slack from me.
Oh my god. Is your favorite moment talking about how much you hate him?
Yeah.
Oh my god. It's probably like Xaden, Dane.
Pretty much. Yeah.
I knew it.
A little hit of dragons.
Of course.
All right. So it is pretty clear from the second Jack Barlow enters our story that 1, he's a sadistic, murderous asshole, and 2, he's going to be on our nerves until he is dead for real, and 3, he has quite the ambition for power. Quote, remember the name, I'm going to be a wing leader, end quote. Considering we know he's going to be Venom already by the time him and Violet have their infamous sparring session, it makes sense that he would be so greedy for power. He would channel from the source. One question that we have is if he was solicited to become a Venom by Navarre leadership, or if he channeled by accident from his greed, or maybe he knew about the Venom already. It is possible that he channeled for the first time during the spar with Violet because he wanted to kill her just that bad. And we know from the end of Iron Flame that channeling results in a red rimmed eye immediately or soon after. So,
yeah.
Yes.
I don't know. That's a big mystery to me. I really feel like there's something to maybe someone in Navarre leadership that like solicited him to be Venom. Because we know later they're going to try and mend his soul, and they do. But yeah. I don't know. I don't know if that seems too far out, but for me, I feel like that maybe is realistic. Because I do have a hunch that there's some military leadership that's like a double agent for the Benin or something. Or they're like actively recruiting people. I don't really know. But I do think it is plausible, too, that it's possible that he did channel from the source for the first time when he was sparring with Violet, because like at some point the first person to become Venom probably did it on accident, where like they were in such a need for power or something like that, or they were just like trying to pull magic out of the ground. I don't know. So maybe like a great need or something like that causes people to channel from the source, and maybe he did that when he was sparring with her. and that's when she sees like his red rimmed eyes. But that also seems kind of crazy too. So I really don't know. I know that Jack Barlow, I think Rebecca's confirmed that he's not going to be like a super big character in Onyx Storm. So all these questions may not matter, but I still have them and I want to talk about them. The next piece of foreshadowing I want to get into is Venin and the great big lie of the Noir military. So just in the first chapter, we get just mentions to so many things, but one of the really biggest ones is the mention of the big bad villain in our story, the Venin. Mira asks, quote, is it that old book of folklore about dark-wielding vermin and their wyvern, which Violet corrects to Venin. And on my first read, I totally overlooked this. I thought it was just like world building and her kind of establishing like there's folklore in this world. And also, just while we're talking about this, I do want to say, side note, Rebecca works so much world building and foreshadowing into just like the first chapter and the first stretch of chapters. It was just seamless. It was such a smooth ride, and I really appreciated it on a reread this time. And I feel like it's great for newer fantasy readers. Like, I usually always recommend this book to people that want to get into fantasy because it's so easy to get into the world building. And she's just playing good writing on her part. Like, the world building does not feel like work. Like, you just kind of pick up things as you go, and you're not really that worried about it. But anyways, back to the Venin. We also get another early mention to what is really going on when Violet overhears Xaden tell the other marked ones, learn what they teach you, keep what you know, but recite whatever they tell you to. So, interesting. This really gets our brains thinking immediately that like things are not what they seem. There's a bigger conspiracy at play, and the marked ones have something to do with it. So I love that little setup there. Like, it definitely got my wheels turning. I was like, the marked ones are up to something. In Battle Brief, Xaden is even asking questions in a way that tries to get others to ask the right questions and set them up to believe Venin are real when it eventually comes out. And I feel like him doing this and getting people's wheels turning in class I think that does maybe make an impact in Iron Flame when like over half the college goes with them to Orisha. So he was asking about like the condition of the village that was attacked, pointing out that that's important to determine like when they're thinking about motive. Then he adds, quote, they were looking for something, which begs the question, what do we have that they want so badly? And we obviously know at this point, but I thought it was interesting on a reread that Xaden was asking those questions in class because I didn't really notice that on a first read either, but he is trying to get his wheels turning. Next foreshadowing, we're going to talk about Violet the Lightning Wielder. And I almost put this in my favorite moments, but I decided to put in foreshadowing like a good boy because it's really where it belongs. But I love how something that is so core to who Violet is and who she's going to be and what she will do later in the series is so early in the book. Just in chapter 1, Violet describes herself as, quote, really damned quick, lightning quick. This is dope because we know our girl will become a badass lightning wielder. In another instance, when Violet is about to cross the parapet, she also remarks that the thunder is like oddly comforting to her, which I think is really cool. So like thunder and lightning, like her and Taryn, like those things are things that she uses to describe herself and things that comfort her. So it really makes sense to why she gets that signet later. But I will say this is some of my favorite foreshadowing of the book, if not just these stretch of chapters. I love it.
Yeah, I feel like I overlooked that in both. Like every time I've gone back to like read the story, I feel like I've overlooked the little tidbits of her lightning wielding still because it's just so easy to overlook it.
Golly, so, Rebecca loves the foreshadowing moment.
She loves those Easter eggs for sure. Now we're going to talk about Professor De Vera. So in Iron Flame, we do get confirmation that this particular professor is just as awesome as we thought she was. She knows about the Venin and sides with the revolution when shit goes haywire. In Battle Brief, she makes a comment that seems like a dig at Markham, who is staunchly anti-revolution and blisses ignorance as far as he is concerned. We expect you to graduate with the full knowledge of what we're up against, end quote. This is extra hard knowing what we know because writers are drastically unprepared for the reality outside of the wards.
Moment for hating Professor Markham. He sucks. I hate him. Just gonna put that out.
Yeah, I feel like anybody who is like very secretive and lying to these kids just deserves our hate because
well, he's like the biggest liar because he's the curator of the Scribe Quadrant, who is basically like the engineer behind the great big lies of Venin. Let's get into some foreshadowing we get for General Sorengale's death, which I know is we're at the beginning of Fourth Wing and that's all the way at the end of Iron Flame. One of the chapter headers, quote, It is this general's opinion that the children of the rebellion's leaders shouldn't be forced to witness their parents' executions. No child should watch their parent put to death. So hearing Lilith say that hits really hard in a reread, since we know that she will sacrifice herself and die in front of Violet, and Violet has to watch it. And also, I just want to talk about this. I'm curious to hear what you think, and listeners, let us know too. If this was the moment that I started questioning if Lilith was really like a heartless bitch or not. Like, from the beginning of the story, she comes off as just this extremely cold parent that doesn't value her children's lives, as most parents would. But her objecting to the Mark ones watching their parents die was the first time I found myself wondering if she had like a little sliver in that little black heart of hers. What did you think?
I think she just had a role to play as a general. I feel like there's a lot that goes into it. Like, I feel like she had a role to play. So, I mean, obviously she couldn't be soft. She couldn't show any weaknesses because she literally was like the head of an army, basically. So it's just like, I feel like she did a great job at masking those emotions. But I do think that I feel like I know she loved her children. I didn't have faith in her throughout the whole series until we got to the part where she died. But I feel like at that point, like I was like, okay, maybe she wasn't as bad as she was. But I feel like it was all just her role, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, she definitely loves her children, but I do have beef with her on her parenting. Like, regardless if you're a general, like, come on. We'll talk more about sweet old Lilith in future episodes. But I definitely do think Violet's gonna need to process this shit in Onyx Storm. It's super fucked up. She had to watch her mom die, and like their relationship never developed. She thought her mom was this terrible cold person, and then she watched her sacrifice herself and say all these things, and she never got to know her mom on a deeper level or even really understand why she did the things she did, which I feel makes her processing grief and this thing she saw even worse. And I just feel like this complex relationship will make this even more difficult to process for our girl, and I'm curious to see how she works through it in Onyx Storm, or even if we're gonna get like a lot of, because there's gonna be a lot of other stuff happening, obviously. But I do think that it's going to be, she's officially parentless now, which sucks.
Yeah. It's sad because that was her last parent. I'm glad. I feel like she gained someone just to lose someone. So she got her brother back just to lose her mother. You know, I feel like she was conflicted with whose side to be on, because obviously Brennan was on the opposite side of their mothers. And that was her last parent that she had left, who knew so much, but she wasn't able to get, the real answers to the questions that, or to the things that she thought was one thing, but turned out to be something totally different. So I think it's just really sad because she didn't get to, like you said, develop that relationship with her mother, her last parent that was living. So, and she had to watch her last parent die.
Yeah. And her dad was taken away from her so early.
Yeah.
There's actually theories out there that her dad's still alive and is Venom or something, but I don't know. I'm not on that train, but we may talk about it in a later episode.
So, speaking of General Sorrengail, we also get a bit of foreshadowing on the reason why Xaden hates her so much. So before Mira sends Violet off to War College, she mentions that all the children of the rebels received their marks from General Milgren's dragon. She also said that she got the information from their mother, but their mother wasn't very open about discussing the topic. So on a first read, this was really easy to overlook. You kind of just, you get an intro of Lilith and you see she's kind of standoffish, so you just assume that's why she doesn't want to discuss the topic. I feel like on reread, this is a huge red flag that the general did not want to discuss what really happened to the Mark Ones, and we eventually learned that General Sorrengail was the one to give Xaden all his scars, so it isn't surprising that Mira warns Violet 3 times to stay away from Xaden, because there is some deep shit to unpack between them.
Well, it's kind of funny because, like, there is serious beef there and she's warned to stay away from him, but then we also know that, like, Lilith asked Xaden to protect Violet, which is why he moves her in the fourth wing and, like, tells everyone not to kill her, at least the marked ones. Yeah. So there's so many layers to this that on a reread you're like, oh my gosh, this is like all the puzzle pieces are coming together. Yeah. And then there's a bunch that we haven't figured out yet. But It is
I
interesting.
feel like that speaks a lot on his character development too, because I feel like it makes him come off as mysterious and like this person with this evil plan to kill Violet when he was actually doing the opposite. And in the process, he ended up falling in love with her. So Lilith wasn't the only one keeping secrets. Let's talk about Daddy Xaden. So it isn't a coincidence, again, that he came off as mysterious and powerful after being introduced. It's because he is indeed mysterious and powerful. I think that is very important that we note some of his characteristics during the earlier parts of the book. So the first thing that really stood out to me in the beginning was, like, of course, him putting Violet in his wing, like you said, moving her there. So, I mean, it's very notable that Xaden seemed to always keep a close eye on Violet and know all of her whereabouts. Though he was the one to fall first, definitely think that he was originally plotting his revenge on General Sorgale by using Violet. And this was just some of my initial thoughts. Like, now we know that the real reason behind it. But initially, this is what I thought, like, oh,
yeah,
he's plotting his revenge. But in reality, he was actually doing what General Sorgale said and agreed to keep Violet safe. There's also another scene in particular that stood out to me and made me question Xaden's motive during my reread. So during our first glimpse of Battle Brief, we learned that the Navarrian wards faltered along the top of the S1EP mountains, and Professor DeVera opens the floor up to the new cadets to ask questions about this occurrence. While Violet shows how well she was trained to be a scribe with her critical thinking, Xaden was the one who knew exactly what to ask in regard to the attack, as Kana said earlier. Obviously, this is because he pretty much knew everything that was going on. And in chapter 9, Violet actually questions Xaden's motive when talking to Dane. Quote, "Do you think he could be plotting against Devar and still have abundance to give?" End quote. So Dane answers and says he believed it at first, like that was his motive, but when Xaden bonded with his dragon, he deemed it impossible. So I feel like there's so many hints here, because I feel like after we got not confirmation, but I feel like after Dane says, the one that's like super codex crazy, the one when he says, "Oh no, it's not possible. The dragons would do anything to protect the veil. He can't be planning anything against the bar." At this point, I was okay, cool. He's cool. He's not doing anything. And I feel like this was just like a hint to kind of get our wheels turning. So I don't know about you, but I was definitely fooled.
Oh, I was
until
too.
chapter 7. Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, if he has a dragon, he can't be up in this whole conspiracy. Because at that point, I believed all the dragons were for Navarre, which, like, I mean, they are, but it's much more complex than that.
So when I started questioning Xaden was chapter 7, when all the Mark Ones had an assembly, as Violet would call it, and we learned some like juicy info from them. So that was when I first started like, okay, what's going on? Like, he is planning something, but like that meeting was him just giving them advice to survive the quadrant.
It's that one quote where he's telling them to like recite what they tell you, but keep what you know. That's where you're like, okay, but what do you know? Can I know it?
Yeah. Lastly, we're going to discuss Brennan and his death, ? So from the very first chapter, we get some slight foreshadowing on the death of Brennan, and he is mentioned a lot throughout the beginning chapters of the book, and I mean a lot. I cannot count how many times his name popped up when I was doing my reread. From chapter 1, we are reminded that Brennan was killed by Xaden's father, which explains the mutual hate between the two from the jump. But something that really caught my attention during my reread was a conversation, if we can even call it a conversation, because at this point, Violet and Xaden were just kind of like arguing back and forth. So it really wasn't a conversation, but it was an encounter between Violet and Xaden. Xaden casually mentions that her mother was the reason for his father's death, and she casually retorts, quote, "Your father killed my brother. Seems like we're even," end quote. And Xaden responds, "Hardly." Why? Well, because they're not even. Why, you ask again? Well, because Brennan is not dead. So, I feel like at this point, and it's so crazy to realize how much Xaden knows that we just don't know at this point, but he's just full of like information here. He knows so much at this point.
Yeah, he is just so hot. Sorry. So yes, very secret. I don't like Brennan. Well, okay, that's a strong word. I am suspicious of Brennan. I feel like his backstory, well, not his backstory, but like what we know about him, especially like around his death and his relationship with Naolin and just everything, and how he's leading the revolution, but he was also like in the bar. I feel like I need more explanation on that, and it's making me suspicious that he might be connected to the Venom. I don't know. We're gonna get into it a little bit in the theories section, but I do want to talk about this a little bit later once Brennan actually is in our story.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't really make an opinion on Brennan yet. I have to get back into my reread to really remember how I felt about him. I don't remember how I felt about him.
Well, if you listen to our Quicksilver coverage, I kind of feel about Brennan the way that Kenzie feels about Everlane.
I still think she's a traitor.
I think Brennan's a traitor, and it's not really like I have like a little bit of evidence to stand on, but nothing concrete. Speaking of theories, we're going to get into the theory section of our battle brief now. And I have a couple that I'm really excited to talk about. Actually, I love the theories part. But thank you, Quicksilver. I'm going to keep talking about it because I love it. For making me extra suspicious of the gods on our Empyrean deep dive and on my reread. So right away in our book, the gods, specifically Malik, are mentioned many, many times in Fourth Wing. And Violet seems to actually speak to him more than Dune, Zenal, or Amari, the other gods. In Iron Flame, the gods are mentioned even more, and Violet also speaks directly to Malik at several points in the book. And also, more context for my theory I'm about to get into, the Bay of Malik is shown on the Iron Flame map, which is between Port-Emil and the Barrens, and we never really learn much about it, but it feels very pointed that it's even on the map in Iron Flame, and I feel like it's going to be important, and if it's relating to Malik, that just gives me more evidence for my theory. So, let's get into it. In the first chapter, we get a mention of the fever Lilith had when she was pregnant with Violet, resulting in the silver discoloration of her hair that we all know and love. Quote, "It's like that fever, so all your coloring with your strength. It's not the first time I've heard her curse the sickness that nearly killed her while she was pregnant with me. And this is what is going to make the beginnings of my theory that is actually inspired by Silver Branch in Irish mythology. So within this mythology, whatever, a gray-haired warrior passes into the underworld. And I firmly believe that Violet's silver hair is going to be of a large significance and possibly relates to the gods or Malik. And here's a couple of ideas I have along this line of thinking. 1, Lilith maybe brokered a deal with Malik to save her unborn child, but the consequences of that is that Violet is maybe like a ward of Malik or bound to him in some way. 2, she was so close to death in utero that she was touched by Malik, giving her silver hair. Or 3, she was always destined to be connected to the gods, and her silver hair marks this. But the silver branch in Irish mythology is having me thinking maybe we're going to meet the gods and travel to the other world at some point. I don't know if the Bay of Malik has something to do with this, but that would be really interesting. And I would like to think that the gods are definitely like opposed to the Venom and cheering Violet on, but who knows? I mean, we can never know the gods' intentions until we actually meet them or hear from them. So, and then also, just one more thing on this theory. I also want to give you a sneak peek into another theory I have, that Xaden maybe will die and she'll have to broker a deal with Malik for his life to return him, like resurrect him or secure him without him actually dying. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
We'll get to that later because it's only episode 1 and I'm literally having to restrain myself to talk about the end of Iron Flame. I'm like equally like dreading talking about it, and at the same time I'm like, I can't stop thinking about it. I need to get this. I just need to word vomit everywhere. One more theory, and it's about Naolin. Naolin, Taryn's previous writer and Brennan's possible lover. It's also possible that they were close friends, or maybe Naolin was even a father figure to Brennan. It's kind of really unclear. We don't know his age. He could have actually been older than Brennan. We don't actually know, but we do know that he was Taryn's only writer, and Taryn is a little over a century old. So I feel like it would make sense for Naolin to be maybe a little bit older, because I don't think it would make sense for Taryn to have been going so long without bonding to a writer. Quote, Naolin's signet was siphoning. He attempted to use that power to revive a fallen writer, which didn't work because there's no signet capable of resurrection, and depleted himself in the process. So according to Professor Kaori, Naolin burned out trying to revive Brennan. And I don't think he's actually dead. I think he may have even channeled from the source and became Venom to save Brennan. There's so many nuggets in Iron Flame that make me think the Sage or Venom leadership is someone we know or have heard of already and is connected to Violet and or Xaden in some way. And we actually hear of Nayland at several points in the book, and Taryn also refuses to talk about him, which is very sus to me. But here's my thinking. Maybe he channeled from the source to be able to save Brennan, because Brennan later tells Violet that Nayland didn't fail, but it cost him everything. Cryptic much, bro? Can we get some more information, please? But I just feel like that phrase is very specific. It cost him everything. Like, did it cost him his dragon, his signet? Like, did he become a venom? I don't know. But both Brennan and Taryn being so vague about this has me narrowing my eyes at you, Rebecca, because I know everything you put into every little sentence and word has intention. But anyways, even if the sage isn't Nayland, I do have a strong theory on who it is, and we'll get to it in later episodes. But this is one of my many theories. We'll get to it. I must pace myself.
All right, now we're going to talk about our favorite and notable moments of this stretch of chapters. And of course, if you guys have not learned from the last book, I love Shadow Daddies. So I'm going to start my favorite moments talking about Xaden. And I get to talk about him. One of my favorite Shadow Daddies for the next 3 books. And I'm super excited.
He's the OG.
He is. I love him. So in this stretch, we not only get mysterious tidbits of Daddy Xaden, but we also get an infamous nickname for our main character, which you guys know from the last 2 books. I love those infamous nicknames. So that one line that got me, quote, "Going for blood today. Are we violence?" Quote. So freaking hot.
Bro, I have a bunch of 4th Wing stickers, and one of them has it on it. I need to give it to you.
I would definitely take that from you. I'm not going to worry bumming about Xaden just yet, because I got so much time. So now we're going to talk a little bit about Dane. And this is most definitely not a favorite moment. It's just something that I wanted to note and just get off my chest. This is why we do this.
Let it out.
This is why we do this. Talk shit sometimes. Sometimes we got to talk shit, and I'm going to talk shit. Yes. So I just feel like Dane was really preying on Violet's downfall this stretch. Like, I don't know. He did nothing but insult her abilities to survive the Writer's Quadrant, and it absolutely pissed me off. And I think your feminism has kind of rubbed off on me, because it's kind of reminded me of like times when men would just say, like, it's kind of reminded me of times when men would just tell women they can't do it just because they're a woman. But like in this case, it was more of a like, you can't because you're sick and you're weak, so you're not going to survive type. You know, and it's like, and little does he know that violence will burn not only 1 but 2 dragons. So you know what? Eat shit, Dane. Eat shit.
Well, he will. This entire book and some of Iron Flame.
Yes.
Okay, it's like, but do you hate Tamlin or Dane more?
Fuck.
Yeah, that's a tough question. I hate Tamlin more, but I will say I have actually forgiven Dane and Tamlin.
I don't know, because I can't stand a lion manipulating man. And I feel like Dane lied and manipulated her throughout the whole book. And it's like, something told me, why is this man touching her so much? Like, don't trust him. But I was like, it's Dane. Like, he wouldn't do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's Dane. Like, he's not stealing her. Like, no. He's not going in her head without permission. Yes. He's a rat. It has to be Dane. I hate Dane. Like, he's a rat. I can't stand a rat.
Oh boy. Dane is in for some serious roasting on this podcast. I mean, I definitely hated on him, especially this stretch of chapters and this early. I just feel like he's so selfish because he's so afraid of losing her that he won't listen to her and he won't encourage her.
It pissed me off so bad that he kept going behind her back to try to get her to join the scribes. And it's like so funny that his advice versus the advice that Xaden gave her was so different. And Xaden's advice ended up helping her more.
Yeah. Fucking
because Dane was making her come off as even more weak, and Xaden's like just grab him by the balls and show him who you are.
Yes,
like
I support that.
Moving on from Dane, I got that out of my system. I feel much better now. We're gonna talk about the friendships and the people of color I'm very excited to talk about this. So, like Kana, I did notice that you're going to talk about this too. I did love the bonds that the main characters make. And so, seeing that the start of, I love being at the start of all the inner circles and books. I just feel like I was there to experience, and I was there with the start of the bonds, their friendship. I think it's so cool. So I love being a part of that and seeing the way that their friendship develops. So I will say from the jump though, I was so in love with Rihanna. And not only is she a Black main side character, thank you, Rebecca Yarros, but she is an amazing friend who sticks with Violet through the end, real ride or die. And I love that Rebecca gives us like a taste of Black culture, because Rhiannon does have box space throughout the series. And I just love that, because I was like, oh,
yes.
Like,
Rebecca really killed so much representation, like from the sign language to the EDS to people of color. Oh, I love it. I love Rebecca.
Yeah.
She did good on that.
She was very, very, very inclusive. And I love that.
Yes, we love an inclusive queen.
Now we're going to circle back to Xaden real quick and then I'll be done. So, one of my favorite moments was specifically the scene where he's meeting up with the other Mark Ones and they are discussing how they want to kill Violet and their hatred for the Sworn Girls in general. And Xaden makes it very clear that no one is to bother her, and he would be the one to deal with her and execute revenge on the Sword Girl name. We know he's not really trying to execute revenge, but, you get the picture. So his exact words being, quote, "She's mine to handle. Anyone feel like arguing?" End quote. And I was just swooning. I don't know why. And it might seem weird because this was not, we can assume that this wasn't even in a nice way. But when I read this, the only two words that I paid attention to was "she's mine." So technically it's still a pretty romantic line.
I took it in the most dirty way possible. I was like, yeah, you're gonna handle that ass. I was just like blushing already. I was like, she gonna be handled all right.
Yes. And this is such like a random, I made like the most random connection between Fourth Wing and the Vampire Diaries. I'm rewatching the Vampire Diaries right now, so it's just always on my mind.
God. I feel like every book we've covered, you've at some point related it to Vampire Diaries.
Yes. So we low-key get a love triangle this book, and I love that because in Vampire Diaries we also get a love triangle, and I feel like Xaden reminds me so much of Damon, and Dane like reminds me so much of Stefan, and Stefan really pisses me off. Like, I'm a Stefan hater. I don't care what nobody says. I'm a Stefan hater, and so I don't know. I don't know. He's just like my Damon.
I don't know how anyone in their sane mind can choose Stefan over Damon without even never having seen Vampire Diaries.
He's such a crybaby. I
can see that. I've only seen like 3.
And people say that he's the better brother, but he's literally like, he's a murderer. He's what you would call a ripper. So he like literally goes on a murder binge and just kills hundreds of people at a time.
Okay. So I'm talking about my favorite notable moments, and yes, I left all the talking about Xaden to Mackenzie, but don't worry. In future episodes, I will be drooling. All right. Like Kenzie, I also wanted to talk about the friendship in fantasy, specifically like the female friendship. I just loved rereading where Rhiannon and Violet met and how quickly they were able to trust and depend on each other. It's kind of like when me and Kenzie met, and we were just like couple months in and we were like, I don't know how I did life without you, and still like that. But I just loved how Violet, like giving Rhi one of her boots, just speaks to how compassionate our FMC is when it comes to others. And I feel like strong and realistic female friendships in books is something that I really love. And like over the course of these 2 books, like things are not always good for her, like her and Rhi, but they're always still there for each other, and it's a ride or die. When she tells Rhi everything in Iron Flame, she's rocking with Violet. She's like, okay, let's do it. I got you. But I want to say, like, I feel like this is why I love Crescent City so much, like more than, I don't know, most people, I feel like, compared to her SJM's other novels. But it's not just a romantasy, it's also like a love story between friends. But I can't wait to see how Rhiannon and Violet's friendship keeps developing, especially after Iron Flame. And I just want to say, Kenzie, I love you.
Oh, I love you too.
We're gonna have a cheesy moment.
That's okay.
All right, my next favorite notable ish I want to talk about is Violence, the brilliant fucking woman you are. Love Violence. That sounds weird. Violence is never the answer. I love Violet's horn. Anyways, so when Professor Kaori is speaking to Violet about her siblings that he had the pleasure of teaching at Basgiath, he reminds her, quote, "You're smarter than both of them, and it seems you might be more compassionate too. Don't forget that. Not all strength is physical, Violet." So, just in these first several chapters, we know this to be true about our FMC. We don't need Professor Kaori to tell her. We know that she is compassionate and she is smart, and she has other qualities other than physical strength that's going to make her a badass dragon rider. So, despite Mira warning her not to make friends, she still gives her boot to Rhiannon, treats others with kindness, and is a certified smarty pants. And I just want to have a moment to talk about how much I love reading about FMCs like this. And she is such a healthy role model, especially for young women. And I also love how Rebecca worked, I don't know if I'm going to say this right, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, EDS, into the story without ever saying like what Violet has. But like we were just talking about, it's such cool representation and a reminder that you don't have to possess a certain skill set or look a certain way or be born a certain way to be your own version of a badass. All right, time to head into our myths and magic section, which we are actually going to rename. So instead of myths and magic, we're going to call it the Book of Jesinia. So we know that Jesinia is going to be a super important character because we know she's going to live. So we got that. We know that she's the one who's going to be transcribing all of these events after the whole Empyrean series is finished. But let's close out our Battle Brief section and move on to the Book of Jesinia, where we will dive into the mythology that inspired Fourth Wing, as well as explaining a world-building topic. Today, we'll be doing a breakdown of Basgiath War College and Navarian military ranks. So feel free to skip ahead to our mini-series section if you feel like you're already an expert. And today we're going to be, for mythology, we're going to be hitting some character names. Not all the character names in the book, just some of the ones from these first chapters. And then later, we're going to get into like the other character names, the god names, the dragon names. So bear with us. We got a lot of episodes, a lot of mythology to share with you.
Yes. So first we're going to talk about Garrick, and his name is an English name that means one who governs with the spear or kingly spear. So considering that we get confirmation in these first chapters that Garrick is the best fighter among the marked ones, even better than Xaden, this fits even if he doesn't use a spear. It kind of fits his personality and his fighting abilities.
The next one might be the most fitting name, and it's Liam. It means strong world warrior or protector. It's also a short version of the Irish name Ulium, which means helmet of will. And oh my god, why am I crying in the club? Damn it. Rebecca, I have beef anyways, but really Rebecca could not have picked a more perfect name for our guy Liam. And no, I'm not ready for the end of this book. I cry every time.
Literally, I cried so hard.
I think I'm tearing up.
So next we're going to talk about Bodhi, and his name has a Sanskrit origin. It means awakening or enlightenment. In Buddhism, Bodhi is a state of being awakened to the true nature of reality and is the ultimate goal of the religion said to lead to liberation from suffering. Kind of cool, since that is essentially the goal of the revolution in our story.
Rhiannon, not like really connection, I feel like, to who she is, but I do want to just talk about it. It's a girl's name of Welsh origin. It means great queen or goddess. So the title stems from a mythological name, Rigantona, meaning great queen born by a Celtic goddess of fertility. I don't think fertility has anything to do with her, but girl, you are goddess slay.
Violet, while there are some meanings associated with this name, we actually went the route of looking up what the flower symbolizes because we are nerds, obviously. So while they can represent many different things, they can signify strength, gracefulness, leadership, and royalty. And we just love this because obviously this is what Violet represents in the story, and I love this name for her.
Yeah, even essentially if she becomes like the Lady of Orisha or whatever it's called, that is kind of like a royal position. So it's so cool. I love that. I don't know if Rebecca like thought about that when choosing her name, but it's really cool. All right, let's get into our world building topic of the day, where we're going to break down Basgiath. So we're going to break down the different quadrants, and then we're also going to break down the military ranking because it can get a little confusing. But if you already know all the shit, just go ahead and skip ahead to our mini-series because we got some good ones.
I'm going to discuss the different quadrants first. So the first one we're going to talk about is the healers. And the healers quadrant takes up the southern end of the War College, reached by taking the Lower Stone Bridge that leads over the ravine directly from the Riders quadrant. Whereas a pale blue, the healers do not have magic, relying instead on traditional medicinal training and surgery. They often work in tandem with menders to heal injured students and members of the Navarre military. On weekends, healers get to go on mind-body health retreats, and menders are so rare that healers are crucial at Basgiath. Healers are also bound to the code of Krypton, like the oath our doctors take. They are sworn to aid all in a time of need and never cause harm, where menders are not bound to the same rules.
Dude, I would totally join the healers. Like, as much as I want to go ride a dragon, I'd die. I'm really clumsy. And mind body health retreats every weekend, yes, please. My mental health would be so amazing. Let's get into the scribes. So this is really important since Violet does have the heart of a scribe and she's trained to be one her whole life. It's basically their job to study and master the past while also recording and relaying present information in regards to the military. So on conscription day, scribe cadets must pass a written entrance exam. The scribe quadrant is located across the river from the writer's quadrant. And they also start their day at 5 a.m. No, thank you. Scribes maintain emotional composure at all times. Deadly serious. And they wear a modest cream tunic with a hood to keep from standing out amongst the tomes. And they're actually able to return home during summer breaks. So it kind of seems like everyone else with the writers gets like all the perks. Well, except for the dragons, obviously.
Yeah. I feel like I would be a scribe.
Yeah, I can see that for sure.
Like, I'm not a big history person, but I feel like I would love just soaking up all the information and being such a, like, important part of the history.
Yeah, for sure.
And being in the archives kind of reminds me of, like, a library. I feel like it smells so good in there.
Oh, it's got to. All them books, man.
All right, next we're going to talk about the infantry. And if you fail the entrance exam to Basgiath, you get assigned to the infantry, the biggest quadrant. So it means a lot of people fail that exam. So the entrance
loser quadrant. No, I'm just kidding.
Loser.
No, we can't. I'm sure they're great.
So the entrance to this section is at the base of the northern turret at Basgiath on ground level. They wear navy blue uniforms, and it takes a full company of infantry to make up for the loss of one rider. They mostly train in combat, outdoor survival, land navigation, making and breaking camp in snow, and joint operations with other quadrants.
I think it's really interesting when they like work with the infantry on the RSC land nav things in Iron Flame. It's so interesting.
Such a cool scene. Yeah, I love that.
Yes, very creative. I like it. All right, time to talk about the best quadrant, the Writer's Quadrant. Also the most toxic quadrant. But the best description of this is straight from Rebecca herself. Quote, a mix of we might die hedonism and brutal efficiency in the name of the same reason. So those in this section of the military are trained to fight on Dragonback and channel their dragon's power into unique and deadly signets. This is the most deadly, as I said, but it still attracts a lot of cadets, despite only a quarter reaching graduation. But the glory of bonding a dragon is just too much to resist. And I gotta say, as much as I want to go join the healers, I feel like, I don't know, I couldn't be a healer because, like, I don't want to be a doctor. Sounds lame. Sorry.
That's why I couldn't be a healer. I don't do blood. I don't want to see bones. Like, I couldn't.
Well, I like hated biology, so I guess I would hate being a healer.
I liked high school biology. I hated college biology. Got way too technical. It wasn't fun.
There was just too much information. But anyways, anyone in this quadrant, especially the wing leaders, for the most part, live and die by their dragon riding codex. And during their time in the quadrant, they have to face many trials like the parapet, sparring, the gauntlet, threshing, RSC, and all kinds of training exercises that they could possibly die in. Riders and cadets wear rider black, and they also have the most modifications to their uniform. So as long as they're wearing black, they're good. But everyone else pretty much has a uniform. And they also have flight leathers for extra protection and goggles. I've actually seen some fan art of Violet with like goggles on Terran, and I just like giggle a little. I don't know why. It just looks silly, but like it's smart that they would wear goggles.
So this is very random, but when I used to play basketball, my mom used to try to get me to wear those protective goggles, like put like my prescription in them so I can wear them throughout the game so they wouldn't fall off my face.
Do you have a picture?
I know she tried to get me to. I never did do it.
Oh wow, damn it.
Yeah. I refuse. Now we're going to talk about the Navarrian military. So we're going to start with the cadets. So they're at the very bottom of our ranking. They're the students of the War College, and they are given this title until graduation when they are an active member of the military. Next, you have the lieutenants. So the cadets that graduate become lieutenants, identified by a single silver bar on their uniform. And then you have first lieutenant, which is a rank above the prior, and they are marked with 2 silver bars. Then you have captain, the next rank above lieutenants, who most likely know about the existence of Benin. Professor DeVera and Professor Grady are captains, and it is confirmed later that they know about Benin. So we can assume that the captains definitely know what's going on here.
Yeah, the higher up we go, the more they know about the Benin, for sure.
Then we have majors, like captains. These are higher ranking military members and likely know about the Benin again. So next we have lieutenant colonel, who also like to know about the Benin, some command outposts across Navarre. For example, Lieutenant Colonel de Grancy commands the Samara outpost, which we will visit later on in our story. Next, we have colonel, a step below the highest rank. Colonels can be curators, aides to generals, writers, and more. Most notable examples are Colonel Atos, aide to a general, Professor Kaori, and Colonel Louis Markham, curator scribe quadrant. Lastly, we have the general, which is the highest ranking position in the Navarrian military. General Lilith Zorngirl is the commanding officer of Basgiath, second in command overall. General Milgren is the commanding officer of the entire military.
Yep. All right, now we're going to get into specifically the rankings within the Rider Quadrant. So, because this is probably more important. So this quadrant is divided into 4 wings with 3 sections: tail, flame, and claw, with 3 squads within, total of 36 squads overall. All right, so once again, we're starting at the bottom with cadet. So the lowest and most common rank in the Riders Quadrant, essentially anyone without a leadership position. So above that is the second executive officer, which is chosen by the squad leader, and they basically assist in leading the squad. The squad leader is a leadership position for second years and grants the authority to command within their squad. Section leaders are next in the chain of command with authority over their assigned section and all of the squads within that section. Executive officer is chosen by the wing leaders, and they assist in their responsibilities in each given wing. And lastly, the wing leader. So this is the highest rank a cadet can reach within their 3 years, giving them authority over all sections and squads within their designated wing. And wing leaders are often given a choice of assignment post-graduation. Fortunately, Xaden will not get that perk, but that's usually how it goes.
Time for our mini-series mix and match, which we're going to call or refer to the flight field during this coverage of the Empyrean series. So it is time for, again, our mini-series mix and match, where every week Kana and I will do 2 to 3 mini-series unique to our podcast. They will not be the same every week, so keep tuning in for all the fun. This week we're going to do Would You Rather, Who Am I? And we're going to give a brief summary on what we're reading right now.
My first Would You Rather. Would you rather bang Jack Barlow or cross the parapet? I got you.
I gotta cross the parapet.
Damn. What if you die, bro?
I'm crossing the parapet. I don't think I can do it.
Damn. I would bang Jack Barlow because my clumsy ass would fall off the parapet, and I'd rather be alive. I will suffer and still be alive. Like, what if it's good?
Honestly, I'm not gonna even hate on him. It probably is, but I don't know. I'm committed to Xaden.
Well, it's clearly good because Caroline Ashton's all up on Jack Barlow, so he must have something going on.
Okay. Would you rather cross the parapet with the murderous Jack Barlow behind you and actually get across, or would you rather make it across and have to be face to face with Sigil and almost be torched to death?
Scale, because like at least I would see a dragon. Well, here's my thing.
Yeah.
I know if I'm like getting chased by something or if I'm running and I'm scared. Yeah, there's like fight or flight and then there's freeze. And freezing is exactly what I do. So I would just like fall off the parapet, or I would like just lose my ability to run if someone like Jack Barlow was chasing me, even though I just said I would bang him. God. But like at least I would get to see a dragon. I'm sure Scale is pretty terrifying. But it'd be cool. She's a cool girl. All right. Would you rather have a chance to bond a dragon on your own? Not guaranteed. You could die. You could not bond a dragon, but you get the chance. Or have Xaden take you on a flight, and then ravish you in a meadow somewhere, making you choose between Xaden and possibly getting a dragon. Damn. It's diabolical.
I love Xaden. I really do. But I want a dragon.
I knew it. Dragons are better than men. Sorry, Xaden.
What would you do?
Same.
Would you rather spar Jack Barlow or be caught by the Marked Ones during one of their assemblies?
Damn, this is actually hard because I feel like I could totally talk my way out of like getting caught by the Marked Ones, but also I kind of want to take the chance to beat Jack Barlow's ass because I hate him. You know what? I'm gonna spar Jack Barlow because in my brain I could totally just fuck him up.
What if he like snaps your neck like he did the other guy on the first day?
Well, then I guess that's where my story ends. I don't know. I feel like I'm taller than him. I was an athlete. You know, I know his tricks.
I feel like you are taller than him.
I think so.
Jack Ball just gives like short. He just gives short.
Now we're gonna get into our second mini series, which is Am I, where Kenzie and I will pick a quote and read it to each other, and we and you guys, our listeners, feel free to participate. Have to try and guess who said it. Okay. Quote: I feel like I've been waiting my entire life for this day.
I feel like a lot of people said that.
Just one.
Everybody was waiting for this.
Well, guess you gotta get
Rhiannon?
No, it was Dylan.
Who the hell is Dylan?
Dylan is the guy who was like, he was showing them his ring and how he was gonna he joined the Riders Quadrant so he could get married after he graduates, and then he falls off the parapet.
Oh, the one that died.
Yeah. Oh. I feel actually so sad about Dylan.
You should show that little trick to Jack Barlow.
Xaden. Couldn't be Dane. Here we go. What kills something with that kind of signet?
That was when they were talking about Brennan and Naolan. Or how do you say his name? Jack Barlow?
Yeah, you got it. Nice.
Yeah.
Solid work. Oh, Jesus.
How was I supposed to know his neck was that weak?
Jack Barlow? Yes, of course. That was like the dumbest reason. Oops, I just didn't know it would snap like that.
I didn't know that his neck would break. Sorry.
I'm like, yeah, well, what did you think was going to happen? All right. Let's get into miniseries 3, our last and final, what the hosts are reading right now. So I just finished Anathema by Carrie Lake, and wowza. Oh my gosh, I love. It was so dark, and it was also perfect. I was reading it right around Halloween. And now I actually have to figure out where to put Zavander on my book boyfriend list because he just changed the game for me a little. And I also want to say, when you are thinking about doing a deep dive on Anathema, Kenzie hasn't read it yet, so not for sure. But let us know if you've read it and you liked it and you want us to maybe do it as a deep dive after Empyrean, because the second book will come out in the spring. Let us know. And now I'm going to hop back into the Stormlight Archive series by Brandon Sanderson. So I'm on book 2, Words of Radiance, and it is a thick boy. So I'm probably going to be on it for at least a month. It's 1,000+ pages.
As always, I'm pretty lame. And I'm not really actively reading anything right now.
Bro, last time we did this mini-series, you were also in a slump. Oh my God.
It's not even that I'm in a slump. I just haven't picked up a book. It's not. I haven't. So the difference between last time and now, last time I actually tried to read and I couldn't get into it. This time I haven't even tried to pick up a book. So I feel like it's just so much stuff going on. I haven't even thought about reading yet. But
that's valid.
Other than me rereading Fourth Wing, that's pretty much all I'm reading right now because between just school and life in general, it just hasn't been something that I've been able to make time for.
Yeah.
But I am anticipating reading Anathema by Carrie Lake or Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle Jensen. So I'm definitely ready to pick up a book and get back into the fantasy world very, very, very soon. I just haven't got to it yet.
But I love both of those books. Maybe you might do a deep dive on a Fate Inked in Blood because again the second book comes out in spring. So it's kind of perfect. I don't know. Let us know what you think, guys. Let us know what you want us to hear. Time to get into our trial by trivia, which we are going to call sparring for the rest of our Empyrean coverage. So before we close out our episode today, it is time for sparring. Each week, Kenzie and I will give each other and you guys, our listeners, 2 trivia questions. And at the end of our Fourth Wing coverage, we'll tally up who has the most points between hosts, and loser has to do something embarrassing, funny, or disgusting that the winner or you guys as fans come up with. So, for example, the quiche smoothie. But we would love to hear your feedback, ideas, and participation in this section.
What squad, section, and wing was Violet first placed in?
Ah, shit. Second wing?
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Fuck. I got like a 1 out of 3 chance of getting the section right. Claw section?
No.
Fuck.
If you get the next one right, I'll give you half a point. You're missing a squad now.
Is it like a number, right? Third squad.
No.
Fuck.
Second squad.
Damn it. I was going to say that.
Second squad, flame section, second wing.
Oh, you little mate. That was a good question. All right. You ready?
Yes.
All right. How many steps does Violet and the other conscripts have to climb to get to the parapet?
200 and I'm going to say 235.
So specific. It's 250.
I was going to say that, but I feel like that was such an even number.
Yep.
Okay. That's a question.
Of course, Violet knows that. Brianna's like, God, how many stairs is it? And Violet's like, I know the exact answer to your question.
200. Okay, this one's kind of specific too. So it's kind of like a history question.
Fuck, dude.
How many years after Tyrandor joined the Alliance did they attempt secession?
I was like low-key confident going into this because I listened to the audiobook so many times, but I was quickly humbled. I have no idea, but I'm gonna guess. Can I have a hint? Is it more or less than 100?
A lot more than 100.
Fuck.
But less than 1,000.
I have to get the exact number.
If you give me the hundreds,
600,
and I'll give you got half.
At least I'm on the board.
627.
I was about to say like 35. All right. How do you approach a red dagger tail?
From the left or the front?
Yes. It's the left. It's the left and the front.
Okay.
But I'll give it to you because you're basically right. Well, let's write the score. Kenzie 1, Kana point. Well, that's a wrap on our first Empyrean episode, folks. So thank you so much for tuning in. We cannot wait to dig into all the theories and continue preparing for Onyx Storm with you guys, our wonderful listeners.
Yes, so join us next Thursday for another Empyrean episode where we will be covering chapters 10 through 18, pages 115 through 222 for your reread or to refresh your memory.
As always, we really do appreciate any and all feedback, so please take the time to leave us a review, reach out to us on socials, like let us know what you liked, what you didn't, if there's anything you want us to talk about or any books you want us to do, or just reach out if you want to talk about any kind of book things. Like, we love to talk to people about books, so come on. Like we said earlier, this is a toddler podcast, and we really want to see it grow with your help. Like, follow us on social media, leave us a review, and also follow us on all major podcast platforms for a freshly baked episode to be delivered to you next week.
Bye, friends. See you next week.
Bye, friends. See you guys next week.